One thing I didn't tell Mrs. Sodine while we were during the interview was she reminds me so much of my mom, who passed away 5 years ago. I didn't say that because I didn't want to get emotional, but they're so alike. That same drive, that tunnel vision for doing stuff, that ability to just keep going no matter what they face. I feel like my mom is an Amazon. But that aside, one really interesting thing I learned in this episode was, how people talk when we are moving. Like, I moved with a kid. When we are moving, we kind of assume that the kids will be fine. But the truth is that in your head, you're saying, I'm moving for you because I want to give you a better life. In the kids' head, they're saying, you're taking me away from my best life, because they go to a new country and they just kind of have to start all over again, making new friends, trying to settle in and all that. And I think that was a really big thing me and Ms. Sodine covered in this episode. Enjoy. First of all, welcome. I'm bloody excited about this. I'll probably be smiling all the way through because I'm super inspired by your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm just going to go straight to it, which is basically, you've been here for 40 years.
Yes.
And there's something you said when we were planning the show, which I found really interesting, which is about how people move to a new place and they kind of spend quite some time just in the past, in nostalgia, like, oh, why did I come, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I wonder, don't you think it's easy to adopt that mindset depending on when you move? And it's leading to a question, which is, if you move as a teenager, are there differences between when you move as an older person? What do you think about that? Yeah, just from your experience.
So I guess there's two ways of looking at it. For instance, we moved with my parents. I was 16 when we moved. We moved to Florida. So I was in the middle of my teenage years, having a great time, hanging out on the beach in Haiti. And then we moved to Florida, right? So for me, I was uprooted. It wasn't planned. We didn't know for a long time that we were going to go. It was like all of a sudden, we got visas. Well, off to Miami we go. So my teenage years were disrupted. So I had a great social life, lots of fun, being on the beach all the time. And then we were dropped in Miami, where we had to start high school, or I had to start high school, learning in a language that I didn't know and having to make new friends in a foreign land. So I think from my perspective, it was very difficult. But I think for instance, from my mom's perspective, maybe, I don't know, maybe she was in her 40s, she was looking at it completely differently than I was, because she probably had planned this for a long time. So she was somewhat prepared. And in her mind, she was looking for a better life for us. For me, my great life was left behind. And for her, it's like, okay, this is going to be a better life for everyone, better socioeconomic opportunities, and so on and so forth. So even though it is hard to come here at 16, but I think teenagers have a great advantage because it's easier to learn the language. I entered high school, which was in a crazy neighborhood, but still, it was easier to learn the language. I was already in a learning mode versus my parents, who really hadn't really learned anything in a formal educational setting for a long time. It was very difficult for them to acquire the language. And also they had to work to provide for us and, shelter, food, and things like that. So for them, it was extremely difficult. They just at that age, it's extremely difficult to catch up. So, but at 16, I had my whole life ahead of me. And I think they moved to give their children better opportunities. But I can tell you, I really saw the opportunities right away. And even though it was hard, I was struggling, but I knew that there were opportunities in America or Miami that I just didn't couldn't or wouldn't have in Haiti. I recognized that right away. So that helped, you know.
Yeah, and I really like that thing you say about language because I feel like it's even when people, if you wait, I don't know what you meant when you say that or how exactly you meant it, but like when you said language, what came to my mind was, there's language, what you speak.
Hmm.
There's the language of society, which is the nuances, the cultural nuances that you don't, it's not said, but it's there. It's like all those different languages. As a teenager, I feel like just because you're in school, you have social capital at the time
Right.
to immerse yourself in all those different language streams that are going on within that
Okay.
society.
Correct. So for um someone who's from a country where English is not spoken at all. So yes, I took English classes in Haiti for maybe like for 2 years of college, but we were learning how the, the alphabets, like how are you, like really really basic English. So it's a I guess a double whammy, so to speak, because you're right. First, you have to actually know the vocabulary and the grammar to learn the language itself. And then all the social nuances of a language is very difficult to acquire. And it takes like 7, 8 years and sometimes almost a lifetime to acquire those. So that's something. The short term was you need the vocabulary just so people can understand literally what you're saying. And then there is like all the social nuances that takes forever to learn. um, but it is easier to learn them when you are younger. So the younger you are, the better. So, but otherwise, I feel like I know people who've been here. Maybe they've been here for 10 years, but they're in their 50s. They still struggle to understand the social nuances, like what people expect from them. So yeah, that's a real struggle.
Yeah. This thing you say reminds me of what someone said to me. She said, I found it really brilliant. She said, when you're an immigrant,
Hmm.
we tend to spend a lot of time in our heads and say, they don't understand. No, I don't understand them.
Hmm.
But why don't you just also flip it and also say to yourself, they also don't understand who I am because I'm a new creature in their midst. And
Right.
when you have that thinking, I feel like you're more empathetic because it's like it's a two-way street. As much as you're trying to understand the new culture,
Hmm.
the people within that culture also trying to understand who you are, what
Hmm.
you stand for, and all that kind of things. And what she meant was that if you approach it that way, you probably don't end up 50 and still saying, I don't understand the culture, because literally you're approaching it from a very close minded point of view. You're not very open to all the new things that are coming on, and you're just always reacting to the culture and not saying to yourself, like, what is the culture and how do I just adjust to it?
Right. Well, I think some people just fight acculturation a lot,
Ah,
right? So, because of they romanticize their past life. I mean, we all do it. We're all a little guilty of that, but I think some people take it to the extreme, because you miss your homeland, right? You miss your what is normal for you or your people. We all miss that. But I think the people who don't do well, or immigrants who don't do well at all, are the people who just refuse to acculturate, quote unquote, acculturate to this new culture, because they're completely focusing on the past life. And I think those who actually do, I think those who do well, um, they'll really get engaged in the new culture, like the new political system, and they try to learn the language as much as possible, make friends of the culture that they're trying to acquire, and have open dialogues with people within the new culture. I think everybody, people travel to learn about different cultures, right? So if you're in a brand new culture where people don't know you, there'll be tons and tons of people who are interested in knowing about you. And in the case, since I am from Haiti, when we moved here, I moved in 1983, there were a lot of myths about Haiti. So uh, it was very interesting when we move in. Some of the questions I used to get: oh, do you live in a hut? Are there cars there? Things like that. So it was very interesting to see what people's perception of Haiti was. And I know it had a lot to do with the way that the media portrayed Haiti. And I thought it was interesting and sometimes really disappointing that people thought of it that way, even though I understand, like everyone kept saying, Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I get it, but we don't all live in huts. Oh, there are some very beautiful aspect of the country that I think I had to share with my American friends. So yes, I think anyone who wants to do well here, of course, you're always going to be thinking of your homeland. You always want to go back, you want to visit, and so on and so forth. But you really have got to try to be engaged in this society, in the society that you live in order to progress. And you can't keep comparing home to here all the time. It's different.
I'm going to come back to the beautiful thing about your heritage at some point you just talked about,
Sure.
but I was just thinking about this in the sense that, do you think that when you hear things like, oh, Haiti is a poor country, do you all live in huts? And there might be no answer to this question. It's more like, do you think it's easier to answer those questions as a much younger person because I don't know if it's like you're not really in a very defensive position compared to, for example, your mom, who's probably spent 40 years in Haiti. And when someone says to her, people in Haiti live in huts, like the way she looks at it is very different from how you probably look at it because you're younger, you're not maybe as attached to the country as she is. So that the way you approach that question, I don't know, like I'm just talking about like how,
Right.
because I feel like if you're older, you're probably more attached to your home country. And then when someone asks you, do you all live in huts? You're like, what do you mean by that? You're probably asking a much younger person. They're angry with you in a way, maybe, but they're actually more open to saying, no, we don't live in huts. They'll tell you everything about their home country and you'll learn. And I don't know if I'm hypothesizing here actually, to be
Well,
honest.
I mean, I've lived here a long time, so I'm putting myself back in when I was 16. When I was 16, it was also the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, where Haitians at first were blamed for it. So it was a very painful and hurtful time.
Oh, yeah.
So I think when you're young, you can't detach yourself from, say, where you're from, the color of your skin. Everything hurts. Everything's painful because you don't really have a clear sense of who you are yet. Versus, I think maybe my mom at 40 will know herself more. So maybe the things that people will say to her won't hurt as much because when you're 16, 17, 18, you're still in the process of becoming an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that people say to you feel very personal. Or
Yeah.
now at my age, I even through college, my God, you can't imagine how many times I had arguments with professors in college. Eventually, you learn how to control it and then be able to educate people and have dialogues without being upset. But at first, it's painful. As a young person, it was painful. And I know, like, young people go through the process of, like, maybe at times they want to hide who they are because they don't want to deal with it. And you also go through that. It's like, who wants to be associated with a country that everyone blames for AIDS? Everyone thinks it's poor, at first. And then eventually you recognize that this is who I am. This is a huge part of my identity as a person. And I have to embrace it in order to teach others to be accepting. So, does that make
That,
sense?
Yes, that's so beautiful to say. I thank you for saying that because, one thing I'm so interested in actually, and this is what I'm really excited about this episode, is just understanding how young kids and teenagers handle the immigration process. Because, adults tend to move like, oh, yeah, let's move, better life, and all that
Right.
kind of stuff. But the kid doesn't really understand it the way the adult understands it. And
Exactly.
it kind of feels like the adults gloss over it.
Hmm.
I have a 7-year-old, and I feel like he struggled a bit when we moved. Like he struggled for like a year when we moved. Like
Yes.
he
Hmm.
struggled. I saw him struggle, and he was so painful to watch. And so when we moved, because we moved to Canada we moved to Ottawa first, we moved to Calgary, and then when we got to the new school, I told the teacher that I really think that we need to take it easy with him because I feel like we're glossing over that. But I do think that this kid is trying to understand all we're asking of him: new culture, new expectations, new people, new friends,
New
and
weather,
new
like
weather,
new
all those
clothes,
things.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
probably don't have the words or the emotions or what are the words to verbalize how they feel. So
Right.
they act it out, and it,
Yes.
it was it was it was torture to watch him. But
Yeah, they don't have the coping mechanisms yet.
yes, exactly. And
Right. Yeah.
he's finding himself now. I'm so excited about it. But when I think about it, I that first year, I always feel sad inside me because I'm always like, this kid literally went through stuff that he probably couldn't tell us. And
Right.
I wonder the trauma, like it's probably stored somewhere, and hope that someday we can give him the tools to speak out that trauma and let it go. Because if you
Right.
don't face the trauma, it's there.
Yes.
But
But
let's
this,
not get
yeah,
into emotional stuff.
the life of an immigrant. Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Just building on what we're talking about. So you've been learning English for like 2 years
Mm.
before that, new country, settling in,
Yep.
bad media coverage and all that. How did you now deal with all that and all the cultural differences that they were coming across you every single time in your new country, like in Miami at that point in time?
Right. Well, I was I was willing to just embrace the new culture. Um, I'm very curious. I'm a very curious person. I enjoy a multicultural setting. So I think I moved with three other siblings. I think it was just easier for me in particular because I like architecture. I recognize things are different, and just even landing in the airport and driving home and seeing the different highways, I was really blown away by how big it was, and then how the engineering worked here and how different it was from my small country. So I recognized right away there were like a vast amount of opportunities here. So, but it did take a while because the language was difficult. But in terms of cultural differences, there were a lot. We dressed differently, we ate differently, we spoke in a different way. I mean, it was the time of Michael Jackson and Prince and all that. The music we got, but the food was different. I remember the first time I went to McDonald's with a friend and we ordered root beer, and I was like, root beer. What is that? Okay, so we had root beer. I'm like, why are you drinking something that tastes like toothpaste? It, it was just, it was just so weird. It's like what, things like that. So there were definitely cultural differences. But being younger than 16, I was able to make. It was easy for me to find my tribe in the high school. So
Mhm.
there were a lot of Haitian students who kind of embrace you. They took me under their wings, and the girls will help me. Because honestly, I would go to school in the morning at 7 a.m., whatever time that was. I would sleep most of the day because just your brain literally cannot take in so much information in a different language. And the classes were all inclusive. So you had to be in the science class, even though you didn't speak the language. You had to
Oh
be
gosh.
Yes, you had to be in a math class, and you just had to. And then of course you can pay attention maybe for the first 10 minutes trying to make out what's being said, but then otherwise you can't. Your brain would literally shut down. It's just for the
Damn.
first 6 months I probably slept all the time. So and then eventually you start making it out, making out the words. And math was okay, but English was terrible. um but now things have really changed. I think the academic, I guess the school system in general has figured out a better way to treat immigrants.
Mm,
Everyone goes to English as a second language or English as new language classes, and you're able, at least for a portion of the day, you're able to be in a classroom where you're being instructed in English, but at the level that you can
mm.
actually understand. So, um, yeah, the culture was okay for me. I think at 16, it's not bad. It wasn't bad at all.
You know what I'm thinking about is what you say about. I mean, I'm lucky I have Nigeria, so we speak English as a first
I
language.
know, I
So
know.
you just move and you just it's like you're part of this. You understand everything.
Yes, which is
But I'm just
great.
thinking about your mom, like learning. She's learning language too, and like because just what you just say now is really wild about, and it makes sense. Like there's so much you can take in, and the
Yeah.
truth is that you're not just taking in schoolwork. You're taking in like why do they smile that way? Why do they dress that way? Why are things like this? Like and there's a teenage brain is just coming in at the same time. At some point, the
Mhm.
brain is like, wait. Let's all just take a break and just rest.
Well, for people like my parents who didn't know the language, I mean, they were well, my mom was pretty successful. She had a small business like I have now. She was doing really well. Then she really had to give all that up and took like a menial job. Um, and the job you just she had to do a a task that was repetitive because that's what you can do. You really, if you can't communicate, that's that's basically someone will show you a task, whatever it is, and then you just repeat it all day long, and that's how they worked. Factory work and things like that. Because if you can't communicate, you just
Yeah,
can't find a real job. That's the way it goes. So essentially, my parents sacrificed their own career in order for us to have a better life. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
yeah.
Yep.
Building on that, like, so do you ever get this feeling like it just stays that you don't fully belong here, or do you feel like just because of how you approached settling in that you
Mhm.
somehow erase that feeling like, oh yeah, I'm fully American, or like do you feel like I'm somewhere, I'm part American, part Haitian, like
Yeah.
what do you think you are?
Well, I think I am mostly, at this point, mostly American, right? Because most of my life has been here. I've married an American person and my children are American. So mostly that. But I think I still have, I mean, a huge part of me that's also the Haitian culture. I speak
Yeah.
the language, I eat the food, even the things that I like. For instance, I'm a complete island girl. I need to live on a coast. Like I need to be by the ocean. I think it's all because I'm
Are you
from an
serious?
island. Yes, yes. I can't live in a landlocked place.
Wow.
Yes, I think it's definitely because I was born on the coast and by the ocean, and I need to be there.
My head is blown.
Really? Yes, it's the way that it is. And yeah, there's definitely a huge part of who I am, or identify as a Haitian, as Haitian. I'm Haitian American, so um, I think all the values and the morals that I've learned growing up, I think they've stayed with me and throughout my life, and I was able to pass some of those on to my children, and they are well, I guess half kind of American, but because I'm from Haiti, they also accept
Yeah.
they understand that, so they are, they identified as being part Haitian, yeah, because our family is, and even though their father is American, but they are kind of half Haitian, yeah.
So this question is actually for, well, maybe for people who are listening, but it's for more for me. So there's something I always think about. So like I said to people, my kids are going to be Canadian Nigerians. I'm Nigerian
Mhm.
Canadian because I'm Nigerian first, then Canada second. Like
Correct.
my kids will be Canadian Nigerians, so they're
Right.
Canadians. They're majorly Canadians because they've been here almost of their life. My first kid moved here when he was 4. The second was born here. And then they are Nigerian because they have Nigerian parents and Nigerian uncles, and they have a Nigerian community
Right.
around
Correct.
them. But what I just want, what I'm curious about is, and seeing you have really grown up kids who were also born here, like
Hmm.
how how does the community really influence them? Like, so would you say your kids are 90% American, 10% Haitian, or like 50-50, 60-40? Like, is there like a mix? Does it depend on how you raise them? Like, how? Like, it's, I think about it a lot. Like, what would my kid be when they grow up? And what's the influence my home has? Because,
Because, but your children were born in Nigeria, you said?
no, well, one was born in Nigeria and
Oh,
he moved when he was 4. Like, so literally, like,
okay.
he's too young to literally say he has a
I
Nigerian
Right,
thing
I
in him.
understand. I think it will have a lot to do with how much time they spend in the Nigerian community. So my kids did not spend a lot of time in the Haitian community because at 18 I left Miami, I moved to New York. I was interested in the fashion world, so I went to FIT. So I lived in Manhattan for a long time, and I the
Yeah.
only time they actually have an opportunity, or they had and still have an opportunity to be immersed in the Haitian culture, is when we go back to Florida to see my parents, and we have all the Haitian uncles,
Mm,
aunts, and and everyone like that. So, but my siblings do speak. Everyone mostly speak English around them, except for my parents. So I would say they're like mostly American, except that I am from Haiti. I have an accent. I am. They love the food. They are interested in the people. So they are, to some respect, they think of themselves as, I guess, like you said, American Haitian. So, but mostly American. I think your children probably will feel the same way. They will wind up being
mm,
mostly Canadian because they will be in their they'll be in college, professional lives. They'll
yeah.
be around of Canadian people, and even their Canadian Nigerian friends will behave like Canadians. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
That's so interesting.
yeah.
So now back, you said something, you talked about your heritage a bit. I'm just curious, like what
Mhm.
do you find most beautiful about your heritage that stayed with you all through your life so far?
Yeah. Well, definitely the food, right? I mean, food is a huge part of the culture, but I've also mentioned to you that I love Haiti's beautiful. It really is beautiful. I'm not saying Port-au-Prince is beautiful. It's totally messed up. The countryside is really beautiful. I go back all the time. I remembered when I was very, very young, and we went to a picnic in my uncle's garden where there was a brook running through the garden. There were banana trees and
Damn.
mango trees and things like that. And that's beautiful. When I love nature, when I want to spend time, like downtime, I look to go to nature. That's because that was instilled in me very at a very, very young age. Um, so I so long to go to Haiti. Like most Haitian Americans, you look at all the pictures online, you're like, oh my God, I wish I could go there. My husband was American, says, I wish we could go. I wish we could be there. Because then you're like, of course there's always a feeling of nostalgia. So yes, I would want to be on that beautiful beach. I would want to be under a mango tree or a breadfruit tree. Yes, when I long for that, sometimes I can't go to Haiti because there's so many issues there. I will go to a different island just so I can get the island feel. So preferably I would rather be in Haiti, or rather go there. Um, And the people are really nice. The Haitian people are really strong people. They really are resilient. They know how to persevere. I think that's something that I've learned from the people. We've gone through a lot, but they keep bouncing back. And whenever I meet people, I just met someone. I was in Miami this past weekend. I met this lady who's just got to Florida from Haiti. She was warm and nice and happy. She was pretty bright colors. It feels like home, and it feels like, oh yes, I get that. Yes, I'm the New York City person, but when I'm with those people too, I identify with that as well. It's like I'm happy to be with them. I'm happy to break bread with them and share the food. So yeah, it's still a part. Are you always 100% gonna feel like you're Canadian? No, you're gonna always feel a little bit adrift, or there's always a time that those old memories will come back, and you wish you'll
back
be
home.
yeah, back home in Nigeria for you, and maybe for me in Haiti. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
stay with you
it's
forever.
yeah, it does. It's wild how culture, like how culture just stamps itself on us and just stays there. And then
Yeah,
every now and then it kind of seeps out and it reminds you that, yo, I'm still here. I'm going nowhere. Like you have to kind of accept that. Um, so you're so right. You're so right. I think
yeah,
we'll round up now. I just have one last question for you. Is
sure.
basically people talk a lot about dealing with survival mentality as an immigrant. Like, how have you handled that? Because you're running a business, an amazing business, but
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, congrats on that. Like, super great job to that. Like, how, and it's just kind of related to your business. Like, how do you, people say immigrants have this thing where we come in and then, you're on the clock. You're on the clock. You want to make money. You want to start paying bills, do all that kind of stuff. How do you deal with that survival mentality as if immigrant? Because I think I would say you're first gen immigrant. I mean, first gen, I know you moved to your parents, but I feel like you're first gen immigrant, to be honest, not second gen. Your
Right.
kids are probably second gen.
I don't feel like at this point I have a survival mentality anymore. I feel like I've established myself pretty well in this country over the last 40 so years.
Yeah.
Um I I've had opportunities to have a career, which I've had. I was a teacher for a long time. My husband and I owned businesses before. Um I retired from a previous business, and then I wanted to still do the work. So sewing was always a great hobby for me. So I decided to turn a hobby into a business. And I had a steep learning curve with the technology part. But once I got that under control, I just keep working. I think I don't have the survival mentality anymore as an immigrant. I don't think of it because I really have truly am acculturated into the society. So what I do have is the need to have a purpose.
Hmm.
So whatever that purpose is. So right now it is like, oh, okay, I can contribute to society by doing this. So I'm which is what I'm doing. I have a small business and I focus on working on it, and I do a little bit every day to try to grow it to make it better. Um, I have the tendency to know how to focus really well. When I want something done, I almost have like tunnel vision.
That's good. It's really good, to be honest.
Yes, and I think that has helped. I think sometimes other immigrants are afraid of starting businesses here. I don't think they're just so worried about making money. Like, okay, I have to have this job. I have to earn it. I need to know the paycheck is coming. I think people have to not forget who they are. Like, whatever you've done in your country that worked for you, it probably will work here. You just to maybe you have to apply it differently. So if you were a business person there, you will be fine doing business here too. You just have to find the right market for yourself and stay focused on what you want to achieve. Um, and also make sure that you have a social life as well. Like have a
Yeah.
balance. Yeah,
Yeah.
have a social life, but it has to include not just people from where you're from. You have to be open to meet. You have to be open to meet like people from the culture that you're in, because what would be the point if we left home only to be here but to feel like we never left. So you know what I mean. So if
Yeah.
if I were to live in the Haitian community and only associate with Haitian people, it just would be like I was back home. So it just makes it even harder to be here, I
Yeah.
think, you know. But
Yeah. Yeah. I really like your point on how you approach the survival thing, because it reminds me of what someone said to me. He said, "Don't dim your light." Like,
hmm
don't let all the process of settling in dim
hmm
your light of who you really are, because then you
yes,
the world has lost you
yeah,
that way, because you allowed the process of, oh, I need to get a job, I need paycheck, I need to survive, I need to do X, and that's just
hmm
all. You're on that treadmill, just going on and on and on and on, and then you literally lose your light along the way. And then, like you said earlier on, at some point you're 50 or 60 and you look back and you're like, you're frustrated, you're angry, but just the truth is just simply that you literally just dimmed your light. You didn't open yourself up. You just stayed in that. You were scared, you were worried that things would fall apart. But then
hmm
from where you're coming from, you were a superstar. So why do you think that all that happened back then was just there? Why can't it happen in your new country? You know?
exactly, because I feel that I haven't changed as a person from being, well, maybe I've grown a bit, but I think my core values and things like that, or what I
Mhm.
thought of myself back then in Haiti, is the same here. That I, as someone who can achieve things, someone who can pursue her dreams, as someone who can contribute to society, someone who can find purpose in life, right? So I still have the same thoughts, and or someone who can be creative and pursue a hobby. And there are a lot of stigmas associated with immigrants, and we just can't let the stigmas keep us down. We have
Yes.
to,
Yes.
right? So you have to just rise above it all, even though it is hard. And trust me, Haiti has tons of stigmas attached to it. It's like
I
we're
feel
getting
you.
hit left and right. I just watched this show like the other night, and was it, oh my God, is it Bill Myers or someone like that? I forgot who the comedian is. I've never watched his show before. And he had a joke about Haiti, like, oh, I saw online, like, TripAdvisor had 15 things to do in Haiti. Like, what dumbass, came up with this one? Did they mean Tahiti, not Haiti? Who wants to go to Haiti? I'm like, it's just persist that because we still have so many
Mm.
political problems there, all the stigmas are still there. But under it all, I really believe the Haitian people are beautiful people. They're just having a really hard time in this moment in history or in society. They're just in the world in general. They're just having a hard time figuring out their way. And I'm hoping things will be better for them as a country and better for us as a people. But I love my Haitian friends. I have great family. I love my siblings. I think they are awesome people. We are great, hardworking, professional people. Hardworking, professional people in this country. We are contributing a lot to society. I mean, the nurses and this, that. We are contributing a lot. And And I know like people from other cultures, like anywhere. I have friends from Chad, from Nigeria, from Tanzania, from wherever. We're all trying to contribute the same, contribute to society, be good citizens, and we just can't let other people
Mm.
stigmas or their negative perception affect us.
Yeah.
We just have to
Yeah.
keep growing, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. This is a good place to end. Like, that is so good. Like, I'll end it here.
okay.
I, I don't think there's anything else to add. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It was nice chatting with you.
Same
Uh,
here, to be honest. Thank you so much. Like, gosh, thank you. Like, I always like it when these interviews happen and I leave it feeling like I can walk on air.
oh, really good. I hope I did that for you, and I hope it helps. I thank you for having me. It was really an honor to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh man, that was good. Honestly, like what I said to her at the end was that's how I really felt. That was really good. As always, if you know someone who's going to find this useful, please share with them. If you have someone who you think should be on the podcast, please reply, send us an email or something. Just reach out to us and we'll reach out to the person. And as usual, as I always beg, please like, share. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our Substack. I appreciate you all. Thank you.